I've been playing guitar for close to 20 years now, and in my youth I was obsessed with players like Joe Bonamassa, Eric Johnson, Zakk Wylde, and Paul Gilbert. And the thing that always blew my mind about those guys was how effortless they made alternate picking look. Now, in the past, I tried many times to build speed and accuracy with my alternate picking technique. I practiced slowly with a metronome, I learned a ton of exercises, I studied licks, I bought courses, DVDs, you name it, I tried it all. But developing that particular technique, to me, it always felt like an uphill battle. And eventually I said to myself, you know what, this technique just doesn't come naturally to me. I'm never going to be able to pick fast like those guys. And so I ended up settling for other techniques like hybrid picking and legato. And those techniques are great, don't get me wrong. But deep down, it always bothered me that I couldn't shred with alternate picking. But very recently, I made some small adjustments to my picking technique that made me realize I actually can do it. I'd just been making it so much harder than it needed to be because of some critical mistakes I'd been making with both my picking and fretting hands. So today I want to tell you about the adjustments that I have made to my technique that have allowed me to dramatically increase both the accuracy and the speed of my alternate picking so that you don't have to waste 20 years picking the wrong way like I did. The first adjustment I made that I want to talk about was to pick lightly, and I do mean as light as possible. Alternate picking might sound like an aggressive technique, but it's only possible at high speeds if the player is relaxed. Smooth, relaxed picking motion should come from the wrist mostly. In the past, I had a tendency to move my forearm back and forth, which made it very hard to use only my wrist. So what I'm going to demonstrate now is a repeating D blues scale phrase with strict down, up, down alternate picking, and I'm going to pick very hard. If you pause the video and try that now, what you'll likely find is that picking the string with a ton of force introduces a lot of tension in your forearm, which makes it hard to only move your wrist. But check this out. Now I'm going to do the same thing, but I'm going to make an effort to pick as lightly as I can. As I'm picking there, I'm actually thinking to myself, light, 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 to remind myself pick as lightly as possible. And as a result, you can see that the majority of the back and forth motion is coming from my wrist, not my forearm. Now, reminding yourself to pick lightly is going to help you to increase your speed and accuracy over time. But the secret to picking lightly and keeping things relaxed is actually in how you grip the pick itself. If you have got the pick locked in a death grip, you will struggle to pick lightly and reduce that tension in the forearm. So try this with me now. Just place the pick on your index finger joint like so, and then just rest your thumb on top of it and don't apply any pressure. And if you shake your wrist around, you'll notice that the pick doesn't go flying out of your hand like you might expect it to. And if you pick lightly, like I just told you to, if you pick lightly, then the pick isn't going to go flying out of your hand either. So you need to combine picking lightly with minimal force with gripping the pick lightly if you want to increase your speed and accuracy over time. The next adjustment that I made to my picking technique actually has nothing to do with my picking hand. But before I get to that, I want to let you know if you get to the end of this technique lesson and think, okay, I want to practice my speed picking now, but I need some licks. Well, I actually have a gift that's waiting for you in the description box and pinned comment beneath the video. It's a free video lesson that teaches you my favorite speed picking licks, and it comes with free downloadable Guitar Pro and PDF tab files, as well as a backing track to practice with. If you're excited to develop your picking technique and you're looking for some practice material, then signing up for access should be a no-brainer. Just click the link in the description box or the pinned comment beneath the video to get instant access to that lesson for free. Okay, now let's get back to picking technique. When you're playing long alternate picked sequences, naturally tension is going to build up in your body, which is going to make it harder to stay relaxed when picking. We've already talked about this, right? Picking lightly and gripping the pick lightly is one way of mitigating that, but the picking hand and its forearm, that's not the only place that tension can appear in the body when you're playing long alternate picked scale runs. You also need to think about what you're doing with your fretting hand, okay? So you want to apply minimal pressure to the fretboard with the fingers of your fretting hand. So when I'm playing long alternate picked runs like this, let me angle the guitar so you can see. When I'm playing things like that, I'm not pushing my fingers into the fretboard with a ton of force. I'm pressing down on the string with just enough pressure to sound a note and no more than that. So I want you to try something out. Place your index finger on fret 12 on the B string, just on the string, just rest it so that you get a harmonic, okay? Now gradually press down to the point where the 12th fret B sounds out and don't apply any more pressure as soon as it does. Okay, that right there. I don't need to apply any more pressure than that. Now, doing this achieves two things. One is that it minimizes the tension in your fretting hand, which is going to build up the longer that you shred for. And minimizing tension equals minimizing energy exertion, which of course means that you'll retain more stamina. Now, the other thing that this achieves is it helps your economy of motion by reducing the distance that your fingers travel upwards after fretting a note. So look at my fretboard now. If I apply a ton of pressure to the fretboard, if I dig my fingers into the strings, look at how much movement there is with my fingers after I play each note. It's like my fingers are coiled springs that bounce back after each note, which means there's more distance for them to cover when going to fret the next note. Whereas if I fret lightly, there's a huge difference there. My fingers aren't springing backwards. To me, it looks like they're only ever less than a centimeter away from the top of the string. Now, that's a good thing because the less distance my fingers have to travel, the quicker I can get them to the desired frets. It's the fretting hand equivalent of picking hard versus picking soft. If I pick hard, then the pick is going to spring back a lot further from the strings than compared to when I pick softly. Now, that's not a problem when you're practicing at a slow tempo because you've got all the time in the world to get that pick and to get your fingers where they need to be. And that leads me nicely into the next point I want to address, which is you need to practice fast. Now, I saw my friend Andy Wood talk about this in an interview recently, the fact that the mechanics of playing something slowly versus playing it fast are completely different. He also said that practicing slowly is really just for learning, getting familiar with the pattern, the picking pattern, where you want your fingers to go, all that stuff. But once you've got that down, practicing slowly at a tempo where you can play the thing cleanly 10 times out of 10 isn't going to help you to get faster. Like I just said, if I'm practicing this alternate picking lick slowly, that's fine if I'm just doing it to warm up my hands, but it's not going to help me to play cleanly at faster tempos, because I don't have to concentrate as much on my economy of motion. Right there, my pick was flying so far away from the strings. And it didn't matter because it was so slow that I had all the time in the world to get the pick where it needed to be. So rather than starting at a tempo that is slower than you would ever want to play the lick at, you want to find a good target tempo to shoot for. A target tempo should be one that feels out of reach, but not impossibly out of reach. For example, this repeating blues lick, I can pick it quite comfortably with 30-second notes at 87 BPM. But if I push that up to 100, it starts to fall apart. So I'm going to see if I can get it 80% clean at a tempo that's somewhere in between the two, maybe 93 beats per minute. That feels like a suitable starting tempo to me. 80% of the reps sounded clean, but the other 20, it sounded a little bit rough around the edges. That's what you want to shoot for. So I'm pretty confident if I practice this lick in bursts for 10 minutes a day, starting at 93, I could realistically hit the target tempo of 100, probably within a week or less. Now there's two more speed picking practice tips that I actually have for you. One is practice in speed bursts by switching subdivisions. Constantly ripping that blues lick with 30-second notes is going to introduce a lot of tension, which is going to deplete the stamina in both hands pretty rapidly. But I can conserve my stamina when practicing if I alternate between 16th note triplets and 30-second notes. 1, 2, 3, 4. Try that out yourself, and I think you'll find that it's nice giving your hands some time to breathe in between the faster 30-second notes, as opposed to just constantly ripping them over and over and depleting your stamina rapidly. Now, the last thing I want to mention is picking angle. This is huge. You do not want to have the pick parallel to the strings. This is what it looks like if the pick is parallel to the string. What you want to do instead of this is angle the pick at 45 degrees roughly, so that it slices through the string like so. And you also want to tilt your wrist so that the top of the pick is facing the floor and the tip, the pointed part of the pick, is closer to your face, okay? So again, parallel, we don't want this. You want to get that 45-degree angle and then tilt your wrist downwards so that the top of the pick is facing the floor and the pointed tip is closer to your face. Now, this is important because let's say you've got a lick, like this repeating D blues scale thing that I've played a bunch in this video already. In that lick, there is an upstroke on the B string that goes to a downstroke on the G. Now notice how when I angle the pick like this, when I tilt it towards the floor, when I hit that upstroke on the B and then go to the downstroke on the G, that angle gives me the chance to clear the G string before I hit that downstroke. Whereas if I have the pick parallel to the string, you'll notice that my pick is going to get caught in the G string before the upstroke, so I'm actually going to have to pull it out and then hit that downstroke, which is just impossible to do at fast tempos. So just angling the pick like so, 45 degrees and towards the floor, allows me to clear the G string with ease. Now, if you're ready to put these technique tips into practice, I'd like to remind you that I've got a free speed picking lesson waiting for you in the description box and pinned comment beneath this video. In that lesson, I'll be teaching you 3 of my favorite speed picking licks and giving you free tab files and a backing track to practice with. Here is a preview of the licks that you'll be learning. Now, I'll be really interested to hear if these tips have improved your alternate picking. So I'd love it if you could go away, implement these tips in your technique practice, and then come back to this video a week later to leave a comment and let me know if these tips have helped you. Thanks for watching, and I will see you in the next one.